Yo, what up? What up? How we doing out there? How's everybody doing? Good. What's up, Shannon? Alaska? Howdy, y'all. Mods in the chat. It's official. Everything's good. We're good to go. What's up, everybody? How? Man, it's been a day. Just got home. Didn't really have much time to plan, prepare, all that stuff, but unfortunately for us, we got a lot of shit we can go through today. We got some minimum wage stuff. We got Dr. Seuss getting canceled, apparently, which apparently, according to Fox News and Newsmax, is the biggest story going, even though it's all complete bullshit. You pumped fuel? That's a win, bro. As long as you didn't have to pay for it. It's expensive, because Biden and those gas hikes. Damn it. Biden raising your gas to fund the cabal. Yeah, it has been a day in Texas. Y'all, didn't Abbott just say he was lifting all the mandates or whatever? I thought I saw a notification or something like that. No mask mandates or whatever. No mask mandates and what else? Basically all the COVID restrictions are gone in Texas now. Are starting pretty soon here. Anyway, so yeah, let's make sure everything going here. Everything looks kosher. Apparently y'all can hear me, so it's good. Yeah, poor Texas is right, man. Fucking they are going through it. I seen today that I think Gritty's getting sued too, the power company down there. There's a bunch of class action lawsuits. Something else happened with them too. I can't remember. Again, I've been kind of all over the place today. But yep, he lifted all the COVID restrictions as of March 10th. 6 days after Trump gets reinaugurated, you mean? I didn't think I could. Yeah, Greg Abbott's pretty much garbage. He's a garbage human being. He's, especially after, he pretty much went mask off during the election cycle. And yeah, he's garbage. I seen vote him out was trending on Twitter, and that was talking about him. So hopefully y'all can do that. But all these new voter suppression tactics that everybody's implementing, pretty soon only guys named Chad between 30 and 48 are going to be able to vote here pretty soon, but we'll get into that. If Texas seceded, we would never have to hear about the Mexico wall again. Well, but we got some what about Shannon though? Well, if Shannon's in Texas, what are we going to do? Can't just lose Shannon. You know what I mean? Plus, we got some other based homies in Texas. We just got to turn Texas blue. We can do it. We're 5 years off. 5 years from now, Texas is going to be a blue state. Mark my words. It's going to be Ted Cruz-less, and it's going to be blue. But anyway, all right, let's roll into some interesting content here. We'll get to the minimum wage thing here in a second. There's a lot of stuff going on with the whole minimum wage debate. I thought this Ben Shapiro video really kind of encapsulated it, and I thought I could kind of bounce off of it pretty good. We'll get to that, but first, I missed this during CPAC, and it's just great, so I think we should enjoy this together real quick. If you haven't seen this, I'm pretty sure this is illegal in 17 states, so just keep that in mind. Wait for it.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam?
That's just a weird voice, man. I don't know. You think the patriotic, red-blooded Americans at CPAC would get somebody that could actually, sing, I think is what they call it. Wait, it gets better.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly
Oh, Blackbird, what up? Boo. Yeah, well, Ooh. Oh, God. Oh.
The bombs bursting in
My ears are bleeding.
proof through the night.
I mean, this is just if the Republican Party was a song. It's like, could you sing the GOP for me? It's like, I know just the person. This is it right here.
That our flag was still
But like completely terrible yet confident somehow. Like she seems like she thinks she's nailing it. But everyone around her's like, "Oh dear God." That's pretty much the GOP, right?
there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner
Oh.
yet wave
Ugh.
o'er the land of the free?
Ooh. What? What? Bro, what is going on with her eyes? Y'all see that? Hold on, we gotta go full view for that. Oh. What is this face? I mean, listen, I can't sing, but I'm assuming if I did, it would not be like that. This is like some exorcism shit.
And the home of the brave.
Yeah, like 4 people are like, okay. Yeah, so that happened. I don't know if that was at the beginning of the event or like the last day, but either way, still pretty bad. I mean, just bro, you couldn't get all the money you people grift, like the amount of grifting that goes on at CPAC, and that's the best you could get for somebody to sing the national anthem. Like that's like middle school level, like painful. Sarah's mom is on the school board, so we gotta let her do it level shit. I don't know how I missed that, because we covered a lot of the CPAC stuff, but I hadn't seen that until somebody sent it to me last night, actually. But man, that was the worst singing I've ever heard. Yeah, dude, I mean, that was like William Hung American Idol shit. I'm showing my age there, remember, if y'all remember that. But that was pretty super cringe. So anyway, let's talk about the minimum wage. So, okay. So, basically the debate going on around, hold on, is it something? Let's just, we'll start this here. Well, I guess I don't really, okay, well, we'll just get into it. But, so basically, yeah, back it up. God damn it. Basically, the debate goes like this. They want to put the minimum wage, the $15 an hour minimum wage, which is not 15 an hour right off the bat. It's 15 an hour by 2025, which is more than enough time, more than it's a very gradual upstep. It is the compromise at this point. That is the compromise, is 15 an hour by 2025. So they want to put that in the COVID relief bill, which is just, it's kind of how you have to do politics at this point. Like, we're not getting like these half measures passed with 60 votes. I don't know what world these people live in, but that kind of stuff just doesn't happen anymore. But in order to do that, you have to use reconciliation, budget reconciliation. So the reasoning for not being able to put it in the COVID relief package, according to the Senate parliamentarian, who is the one that has like an advisory opinion, according to the Senate parliamentarian, they can't put it in it doesn't qualify under what they call the Byrd rule for budget reconciliation because it doesn't impact the budget, which is just dumb because even this, what is it? The CBO found that the minimum wage increase would increase the deficit by $64 billion, which is nothing. That's over 10 years. That's chump change. $64 billion over 10 years is nothing. And no matter what, like increasing people's pay is obviously going to have an effect on the overall budget because more money is coming into the country, or one way or another, it's going to affect something. So it's dumb anyway. I'm not sure exactly how the Senate parliamentarian got to this opinion, but that is currently where they're at. And Biden's just like, oh, well, my hands are tied. I can't do anything because the Senate parliamentarian said this, and that's what we're going with. Well, that's just not how it works. Like, it's just an advisory opinion. You can overrule it. And then, so Bernie Sanders said he kind of stepped in and he's like, well, we need to force the vote on the $15 minimum wage thing, and we need to keep it in, and we need to disregard the parliamentarian, or he can fire him like Trump did back in 2018 during the tax cuts. Trump didn't like because they used reconciliation to get the tax cuts passed. So Trump didn't like the first parliamentarian's recommendation that the tax cuts couldn't go. I don't remember exactly. It's been a couple of years, but basically they fired the first parliamentarian and they got one that would agree with them, and then they passed the tax cuts. So this is a little bit of what Bernie had to say. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders says Democrats should ignore the recent ruling of the Senate parliamentarian and is vowing to force the Senate to vote this week on an amendment to set the federal minimum wage at $15 an hour. Sanders on Monday declared that he would not back down on his signature wage initiative. Hold on, let me change my laptop here. Sanders on Monday declared he would not back down on his signature wage initiative after Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, I guess, ruled last week that a provision setting the federal minimum wage at $15 an hour would not be eligible under special budget rules Democrats are using to avoid a filibuster while passing the coronavirus relief bill. Another thing they could do is just get rid of the filibuster. And I know that's a little more controversial. I personally am in favor of it because that's just where we are at in our politics. Majority rules. That's just how it's going to be. And if you think any kind of process or, just something with the system is going to stop Republicans from passing any legislation, you're out of your mind. So we might as well just get the bullshit out of the way and just make it majority rule, because in the end they're gonna that's what they're gonna use to pass their legislation, because you can use reconciliation like I think it's once or twice a year, might be once, and I think it's once, because so I mean you that's about really all you get is about one big piece of legislation a year anyway, so you might as well just get rid of the filibuster. And this is where I really agree with Bernie. Like, this is a person that it was not elected. It's just this, is a government official that is not, was not mandated by the people to go to Washington and do anything. And now they are literally holding up the entire process. But this is what Bernie had to say. My personal view is that the idea that we have a Senate staffer, a high-ranking staffer, deciding whether 30 million Americans get a pay raise or not is nonsensical. We have got to make that decision. not a staffer who's unelected. So my own view is that we should ignore the rulings, the decision of the parliamentarian, Sanders told reporters. Blah, blah, blah. We cannot have minority members to find. Sanders said he will be forcing a vote on an amendment raising the federal minimum wage this week. To the best of my knowledge, there will be a vote on the minimum wage, and we will see what happens, he said. I intend to offer the bill that will raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and we'll see how that vote goes. If we fail in this legislation, I will be back, he warned, and we are going to keep going. And we are going to keep going. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the one side. That's kind of the process side of it. But then, you know, a lot of the arguments are, they're using the CBO study that, oh, apparently it's gonna, you know, cause it's gonna cause us to lose 1.4 million jobs and some other things. And basically, you know, because Ben Shapiro is the king of bad arguments, he pretty much makes all of them in this video, this interview with Ro Khanna, who kind of pushes back on him a little bit. But I figured since he's going to make all the arguments, let's just go one by one, and we'll kind of dismantle them as we go, because it's kind of what we do around here.
He is serving his third term. Representative Khanna is, of course, a Democrat, and for that, we're extremely grateful, because it's fun to have on people from the other party and actually talk through the issues. Representative Khanna, thanks so much for joining the show.
And thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you bet. So let's talk about minimum wage.
Also, just real quick, if you guys could like the stream, also make sure you follow me on Twitch, because all you YouTube guys, probably 1 or 2 more streams, and I'm going to be exclusively on Twitch. So, yeah, make sure you follow me on Twitch, hit the like button, all that jazz.
Wage, because you sort of made the news last week when you were criticized for some comments that you made about the minimum wage and small businesses. The implication seemed to be that if businesses weren't paying a higher minimum wage, then maybe they didn't deserve to be in business. So what did you mean by those comments?
Well, let me clarify it. I am a strong supporter of small business. I understand the need for small business. I do believe in a $15 minimum wage. My belief is that the Amazons, Targets, Walmarts can easily pay that. But I understand that small businesses may have a difficult time in doing that. That's why it needs to be gradual, and that's why we need to have tax credits and other assistance to small business so that they can do that.
So let's talk about the actual policy, the actual $15 minimum wage. So I obviously am an opponent of $15 minimum wage. When it comes to the minimum wage,
just so we're clear, Ben's position is there should be no minimum wage whatsoever. And then he tries to point to studies that say, oh, $15 an hour, according to this study, is really, really bad. Yet any study of no minimum wage would show like how catastrophic that would be. So I love how people whose actual beliefs are not based on any statistical data, and then they try to use statistical data. I don't know. It's kind of like, dude, you're kind of pot calling the kettle black, even though he's wrong on about the studies. But I just kind of like a thing I noticed about Ben.
A bevy of studies, including Congressional Budget Office studies, suggesting that it depresses employment, that for people who actually receive the minimum wage, of course, they get paid more. But for a lot of other people, it pushes them out of the job market, because it is not like businesses actually just have a giant Scrooge McDuck money bank out back, and they're just holding a bunch of cash out there in order to somehow, disadvantage their employees, that there is a labor market in which there are a lot of people willing to work for.
Okay, well, so according to him, now the CBO did come out with a study saying that it would cost 1.4 million jobs. First, the CBO was ran by a Trump-appointed person, and just so we're clear, that study, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people in the economic community say that it's just absolute horseshit. No, a $15 minimum wage won't cost 4.1 million jobs, from the Washington Post, and it's got some much-cited Congressional Budget Office estimate doesn't reflect the best economic evidence. Opponents of raising the minimum wage have seized on a recent report by the Congressional Budget Office that estimated that increasing it to $15 an hour by 2025 would cost... Hold on, let me pull this forward a little bit. Not that much. it to $15 an hour by 2025 would cause 1.4 million Americans to lose their jobs. These significant job losses, according to a U.S. Chamber of Commerce vice president, provided reason enough to abandon the Biden administration's plan to help low-income workers. First, it's important to recognize the CBO also observes that income gains resulting from the wage increase are substantially greater than the reduction in income from job losses. So even by their standards, it's still a net positive. And that's what I hate about a lot of these arguments, is that there's no piece of legislation that is 100% good. Like, I'm sure there's some small business owner out there taking complete advantage of only having to pay his people $7.25 an hour. Maybe that guy, if he can't in 4 years from now be able to not pay his workers $7.25 an hour, maybe he should just be an employee. Not everybody can be a business owner. We need jobs of all types. So, you know, maybe that's just not for you, man, if you can't, you know, get by off paying your people, you know, enough money. You know, there's more to that argument, but you get what I'm saying. Fuck, I lost my pace. First, it is important to recognize the CB also observes that income gains resulting from the wage increases are substantially greater than the reduction in income from job losses, thereby lifting nearly 1 million people out of poverty. Nonetheless, the report's assumptions about job losses are problematic and significantly out of step with the modern research on the subject. A recent survey of the evidence in the Journal of Economic Perspectives, and I'll put all this in the, I've got several studies from, I've got a ton of studies and shit. I'll put them all in the description if you want to check this stuff out later. A recent survey of the evidence of the Journal of Economic Perspectives, for instance, by the labor economist Alan Manning, carried an apt title that captured the scholar's view far better: The Elusive Employment Effects of Minimum Wage. Obviously, there is some point at which a high minimum wage would reduce employment, Manning explained, but the past few decades of research suggest that currently observed range of minimum wages, shit, I hit the wrong, way to go, and just like that, god damn you, hold on, now I gotta, Washington Post, no, the CBO is wrong. It won't cost 1.4 million jobs. I think that was what it said, something like that. No, that's the wrong one. Washington Post, CBO study, no, won't cost 1.4 million jobs. God damn it. Oh, okay, this is it, yeah, okay. Okay. The elusive, it's talking about this, the elusive employment effect of the minimum wages. Obviously, there is some point at which a higher minimum wage would reduce employment, Manning explained, but the past few decades of research suggest the currently observed range of minimum wages apparently does not include the turning point. So he's saying basically, note that several studies already are on the path towards several states are already on the path towards a $15 minimum wage. So basically, what he's saying is that according to pretty much the wide range of data, and it goes on, and it's, you know, it's long, and it breaks shit down, but pretty much the consensus is that there's no way, but there's not really a way to gauge exactly how many jobs will be lost, but even from what they can gather, it's just not the case. Like, this estimate of 1.4 million jobs is just absurd, pretty much from the overwhelming amount of data. And then even with the CBO's estimate, it's still a net positive. Like, it's still a much better, like, raising it up by 2025 would still be a much more of a net good than it would be bad for the country. So Ben is wrong, because this study is kind of like it's kind of an outlier, I guess you would say.
Particular wage, and that they're paying the labor essentially what the labor is willing to accept in order to work at these particular jobs. When you're talking about competitive job markets, especially at the lower end of the wage spectrum, isn't it true that there is a supply and demand issue that actually develops the wage? Or why do you think that it's artificially low, in other words?
Sure. Let me suggest the two places we disagree. Your view, as I understand it, is this is a contract between two free individuals. Why is the
I'm an opponent to people being able to pay rent. Yeah, hold on. That's a good point. That's something I wanted to kind of break down here, because I hear a lot of people say, calculator. I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, cost of living is different from one state to the next. Now, I personally have traveled a fuck ton for work. I've lived in 7, 8 different states, and including some poorer states. I've lived in Alabama. I've lived in Arkansas, only for brief amounts of time. I've lived in Minnesota. I've lived in Florida. I've lived in New York. I've lived, I haven't really been out west, but I've been out west. Like, I haven't lived out there, but I've been out there. And in my opinion, $15 an hour is like the bare minimum to live anywhere. There's nowhere in this country that you can live for $15 an hour comfortably. If you're making $15 an hour, you're not living comfortably anywhere. Because, let's just first of all, right now the minimum wage is what, $7.25? Let's just say, let's just go $8. So 8 times 40. So that's $320 a week times 4. It's 1,280 smackers a month. Okay. And let's so let's take off, I don't know what, let's be generous and say what, 20%. So that's let's just say what, we'll say 200. We'll take off 200 for taxes, just to be like uber conservative. Okay, so that's $1,080 a month. Okay, so does anybody know where I can find an apartment for let's say well, no, hold on. So wait. So 1,080, that's per month. Let's say your rent, I don't know. I'd say the cheapest rent you could possibly get, even like a 1-bedroom anywhere, let's say $450. And again, I don't even think that's possible. So that leaves you with $630 a month to live on everything. Now let's do 15. Okay, so $15 an hour times 40. That's $600. Okay, let's take off 20%. Minus what, 120? 0. So that is $480 a week times 4 is $19.20 a month. So two racks. Okay. We'll do $450 again for minus $450. Okay, let's just, and again, $450, I'm not sure if you could find any place for $450 a month that isn't in like, just like a cellar somewhere. So divided by 4. That gives you $367 a week to have a car, have food, utilities, gas, Netflix subscription, maybe. Like nowhere in this country are you living high on the hog with, God forbid you want to go to the bar once in a while and actually, like, I don't know, maybe like contribute to the economy. Like, it's just not, it's not some grand wage. It's just not. So that is, when people make that argument that, oh, well, there's different costs of living, it's like, no. $15 is the base, the minimum you would need to survive. And I think that's, God forbid, like, how do they expect people to have kids? These are the same people. They don't want to pay anybody so they can have like a comfortable life and like actually raise a family, but they also don't want to let anybody in this country to also contribute. You know what I mean? Like they want like 6 people named Carl to make a bunch of money, and then that's like the whole country. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. $15. Yeah, exactly. $15 is like I don't care where, Alabama, Mississippi, anywhere. $15, you could barely scrape by, maybe. And again, like, I couldn't. I mean, I could not live off. I'm a single guy. I have a 2-bedroom, apartment. I don't know. Yeah, 2.5, something like that. I don't know, 2.5. I guess I don't even know what the fuck it is. And I could not pay my monthly bills off 15. I mean, it wouldn't even come close. I mean, that's different. I don't know, different lifestyle choices or something. But I guess you could technically do it. But who the fuck wants to do that?
The government, the state getting involved and trying to set the price. My view is that in certain cases, especially where you have monopsonies, where you have a high concentration in labor markets, there are only a few buyers, it's not a truly competitive market. It's actually a market failure. And so you have a wage that is under the competitive market price. In fact, Milton Friedman in 1976 wrote about this possibility that monopsonies could distort the market wage. Second, and I think this is just a good faith disagreement, you would argue people have genuine bargaining power, and you have this concept of negative freedom, that the state shouldn't interfere. My view is that more of positive freedom, that people actually need basic support to be able to bargain effectively. And I don't think that there's true equal bargaining power often.
And that's 100% true. Like people on their own, if they have nothing, if they have no, like if there's no regulation in place, a lot of people who are in a shit situation can be fucked over and will be fucked over depending on where you live. There's a lot of variables to the job market that you can come into. And the whether you have family around, if you have a place you can stay, if you have transportation, this conservative, especially Ben Shapiro, really subscribes to this idea of like, oh, you just have to, know what you're worth and negotiate your labor. It's like, okay, well, what if a guy hasn't ate for a week and some fucking shisty, convenience store owner or something, I don't know, offers him $5.50 an hour or something under the table? There's different people can, if you have leverage in a negotiation, clearly, you have an upper hand as opposed to just being, a schlub on the street with, there's no regulations in place and this guy can pay you whatever you want. I mean, this is like basic common sense, I would think. How's $15 much for? Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no excuse for the companies like Amazon and stuff. Amazon, Target, there's absolutely no excuse for them not paying $15 an hour. The only argument that some people try to, make now that I think has any valid criticism is like the small businesses, but I don't even think that's valid at this point. But, if you're somebody that tries to defend Target and Amazon and all those, you're just an insane person. You're in the QAnon class.
So there are a couple of issues that I see in some of the stuff that you're saying here, just on the specific level. Obviously, the vast majority of employees.
Just Ben Shapiro is supposed to be a serious person, and he's got a leftist tears tumbler on his desk. Serious person, Ben Shapiro.
In places like Amazon are actually not making the minimum wage. The fact is that the minimum wage is only being made by something like 2.3% of all wage earners in the United States. About 50% of those wage earners are under the age of 25. And when you artificially boost the minimum wage.
Okay, so he's saying only 2.3% of people make the minimum wage. So, I mean, okay, it's insignificant, so raise it. If it's only an insignificant amount of people, then just raise it so we can all be done with this conversation and move on to one of the other 100 problems we have. Also, he said, what did he say? How many people? I missed that part.
About 50% of those wage earners are under the age of 25. And when you artificially boost the minimum wage, what you actually end up doing.
So that means that 50% of the people that make the minimum wage are over 25. So that's pretty sad. I mean, that's a lot of people that are supposed to be out on their own, adults contributing to society, only making the minimum wage. So they can't possibly. They have to be on. You can't live on your own making $7 an hour, 7, 8, whatever. It's just impossible. It's not possible in any way, shape, or form. You have to be living with people. You can't possibly maintain a car. You just can't. You can't really contribute too much to society making $7 an hour. You got to be on some kind of government assistance, almost guaranteed.
Is making it harder for people who actually need the minimum wage jobs to get those jobs because you have artificially created a base in the labor market from which employers are going to draw. So in other words, a $15 wage is the kind of wage that you pay to somebody who graduated from college. It's not typically the kind of wage that you pay for somebody who graduated from high school. And you see this historically with the minimum wage. When the federal minimum wage was increased, then people who went to high school had a much higher employment rate before, and then the minimum wage was increased, and then the unemployment rate among high school educated rose dramatically. It is not racially.
This is another talking point. But the last time we raised the federal minimum wage, the jobs tanked, and a lot of people lost their job, and this, that, and the other. That's basically the argument. Somebody just, I guess I missed the alert, damn it. But this is also false, because the last time we raised the minimum wage, we also had a recession. Now, there's 2 studies that talk about this. This isn't it. Okay, is it this one? No, it's not this one. No. It's this one. Yeah, I missed the alert. Whoever that was, thank you. But yeah, so that's another one of the arguments that people on the right especially make is, the last time we raised the minimum wage, we had a recession. We had people lost their jobs, but Economic Policy Institute, employment fell because of the Great Recession, not the minimum wage. Study claiming the minimum wage harmed low-wage workers fails conventional tests. Let's see if I can. Just read the conclusion. I think. Here's the conclusion. Again, I'll put all this down in the description if you guys want to read the whole thing. Obviously, I'm not going to read the whole thing on stream. Get some drink here. The analysis in this report, now basically that talking point that, jobs fell because we raised the minimum wage, that comes from 2 studies. And basically what this does is it goes through and it just thoroughly destroys them. The analysis in this report supports the hypothesis that the federal minimum wage increased from 515 blah 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 did little to affect employment levels. Industrial and geographic factors account for the employment differences between states and with and without significant minimum wage increases. So these employment differences were correlated with but not caused by the minimum wage. Once the appropriate controls are included, employment differences between unbound and bound states are generally small and statistically insignificant. So again, Ben Shapiro just talks really fast, but is just wrong about everything. And this is a known thing. Like, I mean, I know those studies are still used by people on the right, but they've been. I mean, these are from, you know, again, 2007, 2008. And I just want to point out, like, I know we're raising the minimum wage, like the proposal is to raise the minimum wage a lot more, but from $5.15 to $7.25 an hour is a pretty significant hike. You know what I mean? It's not $7.25 or whatever it is right now, or it is $7.25. It's not $7.25 to $15, but again, that's over 4 years. And, you know, obviously, you know, with inflation, everything, but, and we had, you know, the last time we did it, it had no negative effects. It lifted a bunch of people out of poverty, including, you know, low income people, minorities, you know, it was far overall net positive. So, once again, Ben is wrong. Let me go ahead and cut that off here.
It is not racially equal that way, actually. Minimum wage increases have disproportionately hit black and brown people without college degrees, particularly. So why is raising the minimum wage overall a good idea?
Well, but you're right. Right now, maybe it's 2.3%. I take your
Bro, you got to chill in Twitch chat, man. Conspiracies aren't real, my guy. I have like several videos, but today we're talking about the minimum wage. But maybe another day for the Q stuff.
work for the study, but that's at $7.25, and there are 30 million or so of Americans who make between $7.25 and $15. Now, I think the studies go both ways. Some people have argued, and there's studies showing that it increases productivity, it makes workers happier, it actually increases a business's profitability.
And this is, yeah, Grow kind of brings up a good point here. This is another thing people don't talk about. When you have a very, very low wage job, some people, like, not everybody is super ambitious and is always constantly trying to climb the corporate ladder or, you know, do this or do that. Some people just want to make, you know, a livable wage, do something they're happy about, you know, do something they're happy with, and focus on like raising a family or like fucking making wood carvings or whatever. So if they find a job that pays them enough, they were more likely to stay in that job. The thing about low wage work in all fields is it's very unstable, very unstable. People come and go, and there's always there's bad morale, there's bad efficiency because constantly getting, having turnover, and what else is I gonna bring up? There's the cost with retraining people constantly. Like, there's a lot of costs associated with having a lot of turnover. And I know because I used to run used to manage the thing that a business that had extremely high turnover, and it's a giant pain in the ass. And when you don't pay people enough, this is an issue. If you're actually paying people a minimum wage, like a livable wage, you won't see it probably maybe right away, but over time you will see the effects in like saving costs here and there, and not having to replace this part because somebody screwed up because they didn't know what they were doing, and having to replace this. Like, if you have a staff that is been there, even if they're not the best and the brightest, if they just have the repetition of being in the job for a while and they're happy with the wage they're getting, you're going to get better productivity out of them. That's just what it is. It's just, I mean, that's not only my experience with managing people, but it's what studies say again and again and again. Not to mention that really the minimum wage should be $25 an hour. Now, I know it can't be that, and there's several other things, but just... Oh, and I was going to say that worker productivity has increased 200% since the 70s, and the wage, if it kept up, should be $25. But again, we're not there. We can't do that. We should just. I'm very keen. I'm just very happy to have $15 an hour in 4 years because that's the best we're going to get. And even this looks like it's going to be a fucking stretch, but you get what I'm saying.
I agree. There's studies showing that that may not be the case. One interesting study I saw is that what it really forces businesses to do is require high school as a credential. And this a fair point would be saying that this may make it difficult.
How old am I? 31.
More difficult for those who don't
Old as shit, bro.
haven't finished high school to get one of those jobs. But for 90% of Americans who have a high school degree, they will be able to get that job and pay more. So I guess the studies there are studies all over the place on this. My view is that the country would be better off with a higher wage that would help productivity, help the happiness of our employees.
No, I mean, the simple kind of rebuttal to that is if it really improved profitability for businesses to provide higher wages, then they would do it. Meaning you wouldn't need the government to actually step in and force them to do it, being that businesses are profit-driven primarily.
But again, that's not always true because not every business knows, I guess I don't want to, I guess it's a little bit of a far-reaching to say, like, not everybody knows what's especially good for them, but I don't think you can see it on, like, a week-to-week basis. But I think over time, you increasing wages, even on just that alone, on the things I talked about, staff turnover, productivity, competency, things like that, I think you will see profits. But, I mean, again, that's hard to prove, I suppose. But, I mean, that does kind of bear out in the data.
It's a fair point. That's if you believe that businesses always are acting in their rational long-term interest. My view is that sometimes businesses are very short-term focused and may not be making the long-term investment.
Am I Muslim? No. No, I'm not Muslim.
But the second case is, let me ask you, are there any times you believe that the government should interfere? For example, overtime laws, we're required to pay time and a half. Would you support that? There are a lot of times that the state has made regulations to say that this helps the bargaining power and makes for a better labor market.
Yeah, and I'm very much against virtually all of that. I'm extremely libertarian when it comes to labor markets, particularly because I believe that monopoly is actually created by some of the
Again, Ben Shapiro wants you to work 80 hours a week and have no bargaining power and no overtime. That is what this guy, who millions of people call like a philosophizer, thinks. That's his actual grown-up big boy opinion. And he has almost 3 million subscribers and makes millions of dollars. So much millions of dollars that he's actually making new movies now because, culture war. So yeah, fuck, man, just fuck.
The regulatory innovations that people have come up with. In fact, I think there's a reason why big corporations have typically pushed for a higher minimum wage when it becomes clear this is going to happen, because you're right, Amazon can absorb that blow a lot more easily than the mom and pop shop that is down the street. It actually increases their...
Also, another thing, like, even... I understand maybe possibly, okay, some businesses can't absorb the cost. I would be all in favor for subsidies for small businesses the first couple years of the minimum wage hike. Like we do it for oil companies. Why can't we do it for small businesses? I'd much rather give subsidies to fucking Ted and Linda's moving company than BP oil. You know what I mean?
Their ability to drive other people out of the market. If everybody is required to pay a higher wage, then Amazon can spread that out over the price of its products. It can spread it out over its 83% market share in like the book market. It can upcharge people on the product in a way that small mom and pop stores cannot. Increase in minimum wage obviously disproportionately affects places that have 3 employees as opposed to places that have 300 employees, of which 30 are actually minimum wage employees.
Well, you're right about that. And this is, you're right that the impact on certain small businesses is harder and that we have to take action to help those small businesses. I acknowledge that point. I will say, though, that in small communities, rural communities, often you have the case that these are highly concentrated markets. And in that case, you have employers having a lot more monopsony power to be able to set the wage in not truly competitive markets. But to the extent that my comments in the past were not sensitive enough in the way I phrased it to the challenges of small business, I acknowledge that challenge. I agree with you that it's going to be much harder for certain small businesses, and we have to be honest about it. We can't I want to engage in an honest conversation, and to pretend that there's small businesses that aren't going to be affected and that should be helped would not be correct.
We'll get to more with Congressman Ro Khanna of the 17th District of California in just 1 second. He's a Democrat from Silicon Valley. And let me tell you something about Silicon Valley. You don't want those people to have your data. Well, ExpressVPN is an app for your computer and phone.
Worst.
Mississippi, that is literally the median wage in Mississippi.
All right, hold on. Here comes the Mississippi talking
and for
point.
free by visiting expressvpn.com/Ben or clicking the link in the description box below. And the other big problem with a federal minimum wage is that it is federal. I mean, when we were talking about setting one standard minimum wage across an entire country, where wages are extremely different in Mississippi than they are in California. In California, a $15 minimum wage in a place like your district or a place where I was living until very recently, LA, you get a $15 minimum wage, that buys you like a 1-bedroom studio apartment. If you get a
it doesn't even do that, but okay.
$15 minimum wage in Mississippi, that is literally the median wage in Mississippi. Right? There are states where there are...
Again, says the guy who has probably never even been to Mississippi, probably just looked it up on the map. Hypothetically, Mississippi, you can, like, this is a guy who I don't think, I mean, I know Ben went to Harvard. Like, I know his parents had money. This is a guy that's probably never had to, like, think about money. Real, you know what I mean? Like, day-to-day struggles, like, been poor. Like, I've been extremely poor before. You know that, where you fucking, like, $5 in gas or $6.50 in gas. I don't know, man. Fingers crossed. Are we gonna make it there? You know what I mean? I've had some crazy ups and downs, and I'm sure a lot of you guys had too. Like, I don't think this guy understands, like, how much that those extra few dollars really matter, and how he could possibly think. Again, we just ran the numbers. Well, let's see if we can look that up. Let's just, I don't know, let's give it a try. What is the average cost of an apartment in Mississippi? Okay, oh shit, we had it. The median monthly gross residential rent in Mississippi was $777 in 2019, according to the census survey. Minus the median's of 1,100. That sounds about right. And again, Mississippi's way lower, but just okay. So that's the median. So let's cut it in half again, and that's basically what we said for rent, and on $15 an hour, that still leaves you with nothing. I mean, it leaves you barely enough to live. Like, I don't know how anyone, like clearly you've never struggled with money if you think anybody in any state in America who either haven't traveled enough or you haven't had enough money troubles to think anybody in any state in America is living fucking high on the hog at $15 an hour. Again, and that's, you know, we're not talking any kids, you know, taking your girlfriend out to eat. We're talking bare minimums. You almost can't do it. You're skating close. You're just not allowed to. You got to do the Dave Ramsey, which I always say Dave Ramsey gives the worst financial advice, because basically his financial advice is how much debt you in? Okay, 100,000. Okay, well, you're not gonna have any fun for the next 22 and a half years. It's like, so what's your advice, Dave? Save your money. Like, how are you a millionaire? You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think Dave Ramsey is just garbage content. And he's also thinks stimulus checks are bad. So that kind of, made me hate him even more. But I don't know. I've never liked Dave Ramsey.
Wildly disparate numbers as far as...
Come to my page for Dave Ramsey slander.
What wages are actually worth in particular states. Why in the world would the federal government set a federal minimum wage that is so high that it is actually at or close to, I believe the median wage in Mississippi right now is $14.23 an hour. Why would they set a median wage, a minimum wage that is above the median wage in a place like Mississippi, when a minimum wage in California, $15 an hour, basically buys you a candy bar?
Well, again, this is the debate about the floor. I agree with you. In my district, $15 isn't enough. And the question is, should there be regional variance? Yes. And then the question becomes, what is the floor?
I mean, we have a federalist
The
system,
floor-
so there's a real easy solution
TikTok people, YouTube, Twitch link in bio, so you can actually
here,
what
right?
we're
I mean, we
talking
actually
about
have
here.
like cities and states, and they could do this sort of thing.
Right, but the question is, there should be a national floor. And now I'm saying the floor should be
Exactly.
$15. Do you believe there should be any floor? I mean, do you think, $7.25 I think is unreasonable. I mean, for example, Cotton and Romney have said the floor should be $10. I think Holly is saying it should be $15, but for billion corporations, where would you set the floor?
I mean,
Would you say it should
there
be-
is a. I mean, unfortunately, there is a floor, and the floor is zero, and it's going to be felt by 1.4 million people who won't have a job come 2025 if we raise this to $15 minimum wage.
Again, that's not true. And even like there will be some negative effects of raising the minimum wage, but they will be minuscule into the amount of people that they will lift out of poverty from low income, neighborhoods, and just like the effects. Even the CBO budget study that he is citing says that the overall effects are positive, even though their methods as far as to the job loss have been highly questioned by the rest of the economic community. But that's what these guys do. They don't, like they always try to do this, whether it's, with masks or just like science or anything. Like they demonize an entire community, like, like research, economic, like anything, like, like they demonize Fauci, the WHO, like scientific studies. But then if they find like one person from that community that agrees with them, they like hold that person up as like a fucking champion. You know what I mean? Even the crazy doctor, the demon semen lady, remember her? Stella Nyong'o or something? Like they were like, oh, look, this person wears a white coat to work. And she says hydroxychloroquine is good and masks are bad. We believe her. It's like, okay, but see, like there's this thing called like scientific consensus, or the closest you can get to a consensus, and they all say something completely different. Also, they don't talk about demon semen, so we're gonna go with them. But then they like, nope, and that's what they do the same thing with like, these studies and stuff. Even though, I mean, not comparing the Congressional Budget Office to the demon semen lady, they are a little more credible than that.
I guess my question is for you, would you support any national federal minimum wage at any standard?
No. I mean, I think free labor is able to.
Again, this is the guy citing studies. Oh, well, according to the CBO, 1.4 million people will lose their job. It's like, hey, Ben, if we got your policy, how many people do you think would be in mass poverty and would lose their home tomorrow? If we did things your way, what would the study say about that?
To bargain, and if you can come up with a case where you have an actual monopoly that is violating labor law in its attempts to cram down a wage on a person who's unwilling to accept it. First of all, we have an amendment to the Constitution that prevents involuntary servitude, and second of all, bargaining power is still a thing. I mean, the fact is that there are wages that people cannot charge because people will not take the jobs for those wages. I mean, that does exist. And by the way, if you're worried about,
says the guy that's never had a hungry kid and in rent due,
wages being depressed, then there's a case to be made that one of the things we should be worried about is cracking down on businesses that are using illegal immigration in states like California, for example.
But what would you say?
Yeah, okay, let's go for the business using illegal immigration. Totally fine with that. But guess what? We can do more than one thing. Oh, and speaking of, he brought up a thing. I kind of glossed over it, but he brought up something about, how they tried to say, oh, well, the ones that get affected when you raise the minimum wage are low-class workers because they lose their job. This is a study from Berkeley that kind of talks about that. Minimum wage effects in low-wage areas. Again, I'll link this study below. And I'll just kind of, again, there's a lot to it. But this is basically the breakdown is. We find positive... Hold on, let me... that way you guys can maybe see it. Where was the place at? We find positive wage effects, especially in high-impact counties, but do not detect adverse effects on employment. Weekly hours or annually weeks worked. I can't read. We do not find negative employment effects among... Or I went wrong line. Okay. We find positive wage effects, especially in high-impact counties, but do not detect adverse effects on employment, weekly hours, or annual weeks worked. We do not find negative employment effects among women, blacks, and/or Hispanics in high-impact counties. We find substantial declines in household and child poverty. These results inform policy debates about providing exemptions to a $15 federal minimum wage in low-wage areas. Again, I'll link the whole study down below, but basically the conclusion is that the talking point that, oh, the people that get hurt the most by raising the minimum wage is low-wage workers is, again, horseshit. But, you know, it's from a liberal college.
The argument
so
for monopsony, which even Friedman argues. Now,
it's from those damn people in academia, stupid libs.
Fairness, he says this is a rare case, and he was against minimum wage. I mean, just in fairness, but he says, look, there are cases where you have one or two employers in a town, and they're not charging a competitive price because you don't have the choice to go to 4 or 5 different employers, and in those cases, it's a market failure. That certainly seems as one case, and then we can disagree about negotiating. But I guess the broader point for, in my view, Ben, is because I believe in entrepreneurship, I believe in innovation, I believe in capitalism, I call myself a progressive capitalist, is when we're producing such incredible wealth, trillions of dollars in my district, the ability to have people earn a wage that allows them to live a decent life seems to be something that's good for our democracy.
Yeah, I mean, my counterpoint is that we are not producing incredible wealth. These companies are producing incredible wealth because they know how to run the business better than members of government who are, you know, getting their salary from me, frankly, and from these businesses that
I hold all the power over them.
that actually are paying extraordinary levels of tax. Representative Rokana, I really appreciate you coming on the program, and it's great to have conversations like this. So thank you for reaching out, because you reached out after I...
He reached out, like he reached out and he grabbed my hand. Okay, so we'll get back to that. Was there anything else I want to talk about with this? Oh, no, and here's another. Again, I'll link all this stuff if you just want to read, you know, go point by point with the minimum wage talking points. Minimum wage would barely hurt businesses and be life-changing for many workers. This is a good piece by Business Insider. Kind of, you know, has several economists, links to a bunch of sources. And again, it's extremely popular. 2/3 of Americans, this is from Pew, 2/3 of Americans favor raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. And then, that's, is this, oh, this and this, is about 30 different studies explaining every aspect of the minimum wage hike, what it's done in the past, what it could do, and why it is overwhelmingly positive. And I'm not kidding, like each one of these little bars is a different study. Like it's, and this is from the Economic Policy Institute. It talks about different states and how it's affected them. It's just a lot of very good. It talks about tipped wages. Talks about all the businesses that are adopting the federal minimum wage. Our economy can more than afford a $15 minimum wage. There's 1, 2, 3. Like this is like the ultimate, like research, like document kind of thing. Kind of like the one, well, I guess I wasn't really streaming then, but I have one that I have linked in one of my videos. I think the one about George Floyd. It's like an ultimate research document. That's basically what this is. Debunking all the bad minimum wage arguments. So I'll link this down below too. But also, real fun fact, this piece of legislation by Joe Biden is literally the most popular bill. This COVID relief bill is the most popular bill in the last 15 years. Here's the most popular bills the last, like, since 1990, I guess. The Brady bill, #1, the minimum wage increase in 2007, the Clean Air Act, assault weapons ban, and then the COVID ban. So this is the most popular bill since 2007, and they can't even get it passed. Like they're having issues getting this passed. With another thing that 2/3 of the Americans want, Like this is such a layup, and they're negotiating against themselves. And one of the things that pissed me off the most is that Biden kind of handicapped it when he, a couple weeks ago when he was like, oh, well, I don't know if it's going to pass. There was a big push on the left, on the progressive left, to like force a vote for Medicare for all. And I thought that was really dumb and pointless because it just wasn't going to work. But like this $15 minimum wage thing, like this was a key campaign promise of Joe Biden, and there is a ton of support to do it. And you're going to let some procedural bullshit hold you up is just ridiculous. Because guess what? When the midterms come, Susie in Oklahoma is not going to be like, oh, well, I know Joe promised us a $15 minimum wage, but, the parliamentarian got him. That's that parliamentarian. She's a real sumbitch. Like, no, nobody's going to remember that. Nobody cares about the Senate parliamentarian or Senate procedurals. They want to know, did you get anything passed? And did you raise the wages at my work or not? Yeah, okay, because like $15 minimum wage is sure going to help a lot more people than it's going to hurt. And it's going to help a lot of people that tend to vote for you. So if you're not going to, do it, it just like give us like a real reason. Don't say, oh, well, the Senate parliamentarian, it's such a horseshit thing. Even Florida, like red state, Trump state, overwhelmingly voted to have a $15 minimum wage. Like this would be such a layup if you could just, you could just override the opinion. But, Senate procedurals, it's just dumb. Just extremely dumb. Anyway, so yeah, make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit the like button. Make sure you follow me on Twitch. All that jazz. All the links to everything are down in the description. If you want to join my Discord, I put a lot of like news stories, talk what do you call them? Can't think of the fucking word. Oh my god, what is it called? Resources. I put a lot of like resources for like Q and like different stuff and like debunking other right-wing arguments, things like that. So yeah, Discord link down below. Also follow me on Twitter. I put a lot of stuff in there. So moving on from, like actual adult things like, passing legislation and all that. The right, Newsmax, Fox News, basically everybody that has an R next to their name lost their goddamn mind over this Dr. Seuss story today. Like, just completely lost it. It took over the right-wing airwaves today and some of yesterday. And it's actually just completely like blown out of proportion. Imagine that. And instead of talking about the 2,000 plus people dying a day, the mass job loss, anything, any of the million problems or maybe the Senate hearing on the Capitol riots, all that stuff. Which, like, this is what, while the Senate hearings were going on, this is what Fox News was talking about. Cancel culture goes after Dr. Seuss. But you just got to see some of these harebrained takes, man. And of course, we'll start with the biggest harebrain.
There's this cancel culture,
which is Mr. Don, Daddy Doesn't Love Me Jr.
trying to cancel Dr. Seuss now. How far are they going to take this?
There's no place that they won't go, Ainsley. There's no place they won't go. This week alone, they canceled Mr.
No place they won't go. You don't think they'll cancel fucking Bugs Bunny? Okay, they'll do it. They'll do it. God damn it. They won't go. There's no place they won't go. Why doesn't Dad love me?
Potato Head. This week alone, they canceled the Muppets. They're canceling Dr. Seuss from reading programs. I mean, these are books. I literally know The Cat in the Hat by heart without the book there because I read it so many times.
Okay, that's not weird at all for a grown man to say that. Okay.
to my children. These things are not racist. You have Oreo Cookie chiming in on trans rights. I mean, what is going on?
I have no idea.
Oreo Cookie likes trans people? It's a cookie. It's not like a person behind that or anything. And they like trans people. These are serious people. These people get paid millions of dollars. What the fuck is wrong with the world? This
It's
isn't even the worst of
absolutely
it, though.
insane.
We'll just keep
We've
bringing it up.
lost our minds, and
Right.
we're encouraging it, by allowing it. You
Yes.
saw, the woke
Gotcha.
mob goes after CPAC because the stage apparently had Nazi symbolism because these guys are so obsessed with trying to create any
Right.
link to that.
Which it
and it
did.
looked like Hyatt was doing a good job, but in 24 hours, they too caved to
Right.
the woke mob.
Don, thanks.
There's this cancel
Who canceled the Muppets? I don't even know. I don't even know what that was about, but they didn't cancel the Muppets. And Dr. Seuss didn't get canceled either. We'll get to that. But first, we got to see some of the harebrained takes. And now, this one I thought was especially interesting because Madison Cawthorn, who is going on a news network here, has recently been involved with a very big harassment scandal. He's had several women come forward, and it's a pretty big goddamn deal. When 4 women accuse a sitting congressperson of sexually assaulting them, and he was known as a giant creep on his campus that he wasn't at for very long and didn't graduate from. And when Fox News has him on today, they don't ask him anything about that. They decide to talk about Dr. fucking Seuss. And he has like the biggest bro energy I've ever seen.
Time. I'm fired up about this. I don't know if you
Fired up. Journalists, fired up. Dr. Seuss. Totally got the story wrong. Fired up.
are, but my guess is if you had a childhood and you read Dr. Seuss, you might be. President Biden canceling Dr.
Guess what? Now you're racist because you wrote you read Dr. Seuss. Oh yeah, that's the other narrative is that Biden canceled it. We'll get to why that is. Let me go back.
President Biden canceling Dr. Seuss in a Read Across America proclamation. This after Loudoun County schools there in Virginia said his books are filled with, quote,
Again, now Biden, they say Biden canceled Dr. Seuss. What do they mean by that? Well, Biden didn't mention in this like Read Across America Day or whatever the fuck it is. Biden didn't mention Dr. Seuss, which apparently other presidents had mentioned Dr. Seuss before. But Biden wasn't like, I hereby cancel Dr. Seuss. Like, they just didn't mention Dr. Seuss. Like, it was not a big deal at all. But, apparently Biden's canceling Dr. Seuss.
Orientalism, anti-blackness, and white supremacy. Look, Congressman, these cancellations getting more and more outlandish by the day. When does this stop?
Well, brother, I was going to go to the gym after this hit, but I don't have to now. I'm already fired up. That is absurd.
Is that not the dumbest goddamn line you've ever heard? Bro, I was going to go to the gym after this, but I don't even have to now. I'm already fired up because of this Dr. Seuss story.
Inside of our Congress, we actually have done a lot. We've got a lot accomplished. We have successfully, so far, renamed a post office here in the 117th Congress. So you're telling me that the actual priorities of the Democrats is renaming a post office and now canceling Dr. Seuss? Americans are actually struggling, and this cancel culture does not help us. If we want to heal America and end this major partisan divide, we need to stop canceling our neighbor and go out and communicate with them.
Also, let's realize that one...
Who's neighbors with the cat in the hat? Are you guys neighbors with the cat in the hat? I'm not. I'm not. I don't know. Maybe he is. Again, I love the guy who said he is going to Washington and he's not really focused on policy, which is basically what he said in a fancy way, is bitching about not getting anything done. When he basically knows he's just there as a fascist show pony for the next 2 years.
Fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish is not as concerning as, let's say, China.
You are absolutely right. I mean, we are actually losing a battle that's not even started yet against China. They have taken away all of our manufacturing. They're taking care of all of our medications over there. They produce the rare earth materials that we need on our telecommunications satellites.
Says the guy who is all about profits, man. Let's get them sweet, juicy profits. Okay, we got to outsource the jobs to China to do that. Okay, now I'm going to bitch about it, though.
And they are actually taking over parts of Africa and South Asia with their very aggressive stance when it actually comes to building infrastructure. This is the threat that we should be worrying about, because this is the threat that actually harms American lives.
So then why aren't you talking about it? Why are you spending fucking an entire segment on a nationally syndicated cable news network talking about Dr. Seuss being canceled? Which, by the way, we'll get to the story at the end. Not canceled, as it turns out.
Not if Dr. Seuss is racist. I actually laugh trying to think about that.
And
What books were pulled? I haven't gotten a chance to see the list. I'm gonna go over it in a second here. I got the story here, but I want to go through some of the, like, you would think like the world is ending. Like this is just like the day, like this was the day on Fox News is basically what we're going through here.
Let me just quote Barack Obama in 2015.
What? Just listen to this shit.
Saying, quote, pretty much all the stuff you need to know is in Dr. Seuss. Now, as Barack
Racist. Now he's a racist. Canceled. Huh.
Obama racist for quoting Dr. Seuss there and patting him on the back for the work
can
that he
I
did?
add one
I
other,
don't think so.
one other angle to this? There are so many kids right now who are falling behind in their reading because of this
And
pandemic.
it's a great place to start,
and they're
Dr.
not in the
Seuss.
classroom. And Dr. Seuss, this company could be just spreading that message, educate our children, encourage literacy.
Nah, we
Interesting.
canceled them, bro. They racist. That's what we do on the left. We be canceling people because they be racist.
Roberts is also with us as
I don't
well,
know
and
what I'm
John
doing
from the
there.
political state. This has gotten political,
Racist.
right? Because Jim Jordan has now stepped in. He's saying that there's a dangerous trend happening with cancel culture in this country. He's now calling on Congress to.
Yeah, Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan, that's a fucking opinion I really value. Yeah, he says the cancel culture is the issue because he doesn't want to talk about the actual issue, which happens to be him.
Examine this cancel culture that he says is sweeping America.
Everything is political
He said as his statement was read from his press secretary on the national cable show.
these days, whether it's woke culture, whether it's cancel culture, whether it's extreme.
If cancel culture was a thing, Jim Jordan would be canceled and would have been canceled. So, okay. So it made the rounds on the cable news shows, but then, we had to get to it in the fucking press briefing because, that's important.
Kristen, do you have another question?
A question about Dr. Seuss, since it's maybe the only day that you can bring up Dr. Seuss in every hearing. It is National Read Across America Day. It's also Dr. Seuss's birthday. Both former presidents, Obama and Trump, mentioned Dr. Seuss in their Read Across America Day proclamations, but President Biden did not. Why not?
Well, first, the proclamation was written by the Department of Education, and you could certainly speak to them about more specifics about the drafting of it. But Read Across America Day, which, as you're right, has not existed forever, has only been around for a short period of time, elevates and celebrates a love of reading among our nation's youngest leaders. And the day is also a chance to celebrate diverse authors whose work and lived experience reflect the diversity of our country. And that's certainly what they attempted to do or hope to do this year. And as we celebrate the love of reading and uplift diverse and representative authors, it is especially important that we ensure all children can see themselves represented and celebrated in the books that they read.
So does the omission have anything to do with the controversy about the lack of diverse characters in the author's books?
Well, again, I think it is important that children of all backgrounds see themselves in the children's books that they read. But I would point you to the Department of Education for any more details on.
So yeah, okay, so then we'll get to Marjorie Taylor Greene too. We got to talk about this voter suppression shit too. That's a hell of a story. So, okay. So Fox News says they have canceled Dr. Seuss. God damn it. They have just canceled him. Biden canceled him. Everybody's canceling him. He's just been canceled, beyond canceled, beyond canceled, beyond canceled. So, let me get rid of some of these tabs here. Let's read the story, actually. Let's try that. Because that's always good to do. Okay. He talks about them melting down. Blah, blah, blah. Is this... Okay, yeah, okay, this is it. Okay. Dr. Seuss hasn't been canceled. The right-wing outrage over Dr. Seuss can be tracked back to a February 26 article in Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire publication about a left-wing educators group that encouraged public schools to stop connecting Read Across America Day with Dr. Seuss, citing racial undertones in some of his books. There are two linked. The two are linked as the National Education Association has previously used March 2nd, Dr. Seuss's birthday, I'm not exactly sure how you say his fucking name, as an opportunity to encourage literacy. At least one school district, the Loudoun County Public School System in Northern Virginia, did indeed decide to try and separate Read Across America Day from Dr. Seuss, providing guidance to schools to not connect Read Across America Day exclusively with Dr. Seuss's birthday. The Daily Wire cited this guidance as evidence that Dr. Seuss was being canceled. In response to the outrage, the article generated Loudoun County Schools release a statement trying to correct the record. Dr. Seuss books have not been banned in Loudoun County Public Schools, it says, adding later, we continue to encourage our young readers to read all types of books that are inclusive, diverse, and reflective of our student community, not simply celebrate Dr. Seuss or Dr. Seuss books. Dr. Seuss books have not been banned and are available to students in our libraries and classrooms classrooms. However, Dr. Seuss and his books are no longer the emphasis of Read Across America Day in the Loudoun County Public Schools. So that was the big thing. So basically, one school district in one state said, hey, maybe the entire Read Across America Day shouldn't be dedicated to just Dr. Seuss. That's what happened. That was the big part of it. That was like the big part of the snowball. So that is like when they're like, oh, school cancels fucking Dr. Seuss, bro. No. Just like the potato head thing, they completely blew it out of proportion. Then on March 1st, President, and this is where they talk about Biden canceling fucking whatever. Then on March 1st, President Joe Biden released a statement about Read Across America Day that broke with years of precedent by not mentioning Dr. Seuss. This led to headlines like Biden cancels Dr. Seuss. Again, because he didn't mention him. Apparently he canceled him. He didn't mention me either, so I mean, I don't know. More fuel was added to the right-wing outrage fire on Tuesday when Dr. Seuss Enterprises, the company that publishes and licenses the author's work, announced that 6 Seuss books will no longer be published because they portray people of color in ways that are hurtful and wrong. But here's the kicker. Why is this revelation of Dr. Seuss happening now? In part, it has to do with a 2019 study conducted by a nonprofit linked to Read Across America Day called Learning for Justice that concluded Seuss's works trafficked in Orientalist tropes and anti-blackness. Here's a key excerpt from the study. So basically, a couple of years ago, they did a study and they were like, hey, basically it goes on to say here, like, hey, you only had, out of all the Seuss books, you had, or I'll just read it. Okay. Of the 2,240 identified human characters in 50 Dr. Seuss books, there are 45 characters of color, representing 2% of the total number of human characters. Of the 45 characters, 43 exhibited behaviors and appearances that align with harmful and stereotypical Orientalist tropes. The remaining 2 human characters are identified in the text as African and both align with the theme of anti-blackness. It's basically what's, but this is the company doing a study, looking at these books and saying like, well, you know, maybe we should go in a different direction. They were not canceled. This is in-house. They decided, hey, we're a company. We like money because, you know, profits and such. Let's make our books more inclusive so more people will buy them. Plus, you know, it's always, you know, it's like hip for companies to be more woke these days. So let's try and be a little more woke. And more people are more race conscious nowadays. So it's just another example of a company deciding to change a few details about some of their things so they can make more money. But somehow that turned into an entire day of the woke mob is canceling America. They took my Dr. Seuss away. It's like, dude, you people need fucking Jesus, who doesn't exist. But you need him because, I mean, like, who writes this shit, man? How can serious people be upset about this? I mean, especially if, like, you know what's going on in the world. You know what I mean? Like, I could, like, it just, like, I saw the outrage first, you know what I mean? And then I saw, like, like, what was actually going on. And it was, like, even, like, you know, me who has no hope for the right is like, dude, this is some real weak shit. Like, you guys are really grasping at straws. You really did not want to cover the hearings on Capitol Hill today. Or anything. Like, they just want to, like, they're replacing the Capitol riots one ridiculous cancel culture story at a time. It's like anytime something about the Capitol riots comes up, they just, like, replace it with, like, did you hear Transformers is anti-gay or something? You know what I mean? So they canceled it. It's so stupid. Don't say Jesus doesn't exist. I mean, well, okay. Public schools in my area decided to not read Seuss in schools for Read Across America Day week due to this. Yeah, well, I'm sure, like, a few schools did it, but it's like they still have the books. They just, like, didn't. They're like, okay, well, you know, we're just not gonna read the book, or we're not gonna, like, you know, put Dr. Seuss at the forefront, you know, for whatever reason. But it's not canceling. Like, not being the prominent figure in one day of you know what I mean? It's like 1 week of, like, a school year, and, like, a couple schools did it, and nobody, like, there was no campaign. This wasn't like a campaign of people like, we need to take down Dr. Seuss because he's pushing anti-black stereotypes and yada. You know what I mean? Like, this is like some corporate shills, you know, at the tops of a company trying to be, you know, like, you know, more with the times, I guess. And they ran test groups, and they're like, oh, hey, well, maybe we should switch this up. It's definitely not. And then, you know, as far as Biden canceling them, that's just stupid. You know, that's just not true and dumb and wrong in every way. So yeah. I don't know what y'all think of that, but there are so many kids authors. Yeah, that's a good point too. There's the tons of, like, great children's authors. Maybe we shouldn't just you know, push Dr. Seuss, who's probably made a pretty penny at this point. You know, maybe we shouldn't just push his books all the time. Let's maybe you know, do a different author every year as, like, the, you know, prominent whatever keynote book for Read America Week. Like, it's just such a dumb, like, you know, it's like, why is this even a thing? Why is something like this being talked about at the White House press briefing? This is such a non-story, which is why the Daily Wire was covering it in the first place. I guess this is like the Ben Shapiro episode. All by design, keep them distracted from the real stories. Exactly. Yes. That's exactly. This is how propaganda works. Tucker was freaking out about breastfeeding because a hospital in the UK changed wording on their pamphlet. That's what it always is. Like, they take, like, one company or, like, one, you know what I mean? They take, like, one thing from one country or something. Like, I'll never forget when Tucker talked about the racist trees for 3 days during the tax cuts. And that's, you know, and you just got to look out for that kind of stuff, because that's their MO now. That's what they're doing. It's all about the woke mob, cancel culture, and because they can't, you know, policy just doesn't exist on the right anymore. They only just talk about what the Democrats doing is bad. Whatever the Democrats doing is bad, but they don't have actual solutions. Kind of like Ben Shapiro there. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, well, studies show that this could potentially be kind of harmful for some people. All right, what should we do, Ben? Wow, we should have no worker protections and no minimum wage. Okay. Well, that's not a solution, Ben. That's dumb. It's really dumb. Like, you're talking to a serious person. Can you, like, maybe, I don't know, have, like, actual solutions? Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so, yeah, while we're here, before we move on from the dumbest segment ever, make sure you guys like the stream, and if you're on YouTube, make sure you follow me on Twitch, because I'm going to be moving over there pretty soon. Permanent Twitch streamer. And if you want to support me, you can subscribe on Twitch. And if you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch subscription. That way you get emojis and like ad-free content. And I might possibly do a dance for you. Don't know when, but I might do it. Just saying. If you want me to dance for you, I'll do it. Okay. And yeah, just follow me on Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff. Join the Discord. They do have a solution. It's literally always capitalism. No, it's unrestricted capitalism. That's what you gotta. It's not. See, the only reason that their super duper capitalism doesn't work is because, you know, it's just got too many of those little dumb regulations, bro. It's like we just got to have no regulations whatsoever. Building regulations, do away with them. You know, construction regulations, just gone, out of here. Any kind of regulations on anything ever, just gone. Get them out of here. They're dumb. And that way we can live in this hyper super capitalist utopia, and everybody can have as much money as Jeff Bezos. And everybody works on Wall Street, and there's no such thing as a doctor or a teacher. But anyway, so we had the FBI Director Christopher Wray appointed by Trump, who is was a Chris Christie guy. I don't know if you guys know that, but that's where kind of he got his start from. He worked for Christie when he was the governor, and he kind of rose through the ranks there. And then Christie, of course, when he was still in Trump's good graces, recommended him for the FBI gig, and that's how Chris Wray became FBI Director. So he's definitely no lefty by any means. He was appointed by Trump, and he testified about the Capitol riots, some other shit today. So check out a little bit of the highlights.
That attack, that siege,
First
was
world
criminal
problems,
behavior,
true.
plain and simple, and it's behavior that we, the FBI, view
Can
as
it be
domestic
Macarena?
terrorism. It's got no
We'll hold you
place
to that
in our
dance,
democracy, and tolerating it would make a mockery of our nation's rule of
Okay,
law.
I missed it.
That siege was criminal behavior, plain and simple, and it's behavior that we, the FBI, view as domestic terrorism. It's got no place in our democracy, and tolerating it would make a mockery of our nation's rule of law. The rule of law, of course, is our country's bedrock, and it's our guiding principle at the FBI. That's why the FBI has been working day and night
I mean, is it though? Is it really?
Across the country to track down those responsible for the events of January 6th and to hold them accountable. We're chasing down leads, we're reviewing evidence, combing through digital media to identify, investigate, and arrest anyone who broke the law that day. And our greatest partner in this investigation has been the American
NordVPN. YouTube joke there.
People themselves, your constituents. Citizens from around the country have sent us more than 270,000 digital media tips.
Jeez.
Some have even taken the painful step of turning in their friends or their family members.
That would
But with
suck.
their help,
Imagine getting dimed out by like your cousin or something. Of course, they obviously completely 100% deserve it. But be like, who gave me up? It's like your girlfriend.
we've identified hundreds of suspects and opened hundreds of investigations in all but one of our 56 field offices. And of those identified, we've arrested already more than 270 individuals to date, over 300 when you include the ones of our partners, with more subjects being identified and charged just about every single day. The FBI is committed to seeing this through, no matter how many people it takes or how long or the resources we need to get it done. Because as citizens, in a sense, we're all victims of the January 6th assault, and the American people deserve nothing less. Unfortunately, as you noted, Mr. Chairman, January 6th was not an isolated event. The problem of domestic terrorism has been metastasizing across the country for a long time now, and it's not going away anytime soon. At the FBI, we've been sounding the alarm on it for a number of years now. I've been sounding the alarm about domestic terrorism since, I think, just about my first month on the job.
So please explain to me why in the fuck you were not ready for January 6th. Because anybody who pays attention to the right on Twitter was like, hey man, I think something bad's gonna happen on the 6th. Like, they made merch, bro. So don't give me you're dedicated to fighting you know, white extreme, you know, whatever. Yeah, whatever he said there.
When I first started appearing up on the Hill, and I've spoken about it in maybe a dozen different congressional hearings.
And then we had Dick Durbin, who's not the worst in the world, I guess.
Based on your investigation so far, do you have any evidence that the Capitol attack was organized by, quote, fake Trump protesters?
We have not seen evidence of that at this stage, certainly.
Thank you. So based on your investigation.
And boom goes the dynamite. Stupid liberal FBI, lying, deep state, liberal fake media news, talking about no BLM or Antifa. What about that one guy, though, huh? What about that guy? He was there. Let's see what Chuck Grassley has to say. By the way, Chuck Grassley's Twitter is pretty lit. Like, he just tweets out, like, the weirdest random old man shit. And then, like, the Q people take it and they try to interpret it and, like, make codes out of it. You know what I mean? Or they think it's, like, code. And, they try to decipher it. But it's just, like, the ramblings of a extremely old person. It's pretty fun.
We all want to know what happened to Officer Brian Sicknick. Tragic death as a result of that January 6th assault. There's been conflicting reports about his cause of death. Have you determined the exact cause of death? And is there a homicide investigation?
That is a senator pushing conspiracy bullshit about the Capitol riots, just so we are clear.
So I'll take the last part of your question first. There is an ongoing investigation into his death. I have to be careful at this stage, because it's ongoing, not to get out in front of it. But I certainly understand and respect and appreciate the keen interest in what happened to him. After all, he was here protecting all of you. And as soon as there is information that we can appropriately share, we want to be able to do that. But at the moment, the investigation is still ongoing.
So does that mean, since the investigation is going on, you have not determined the exact cause of the death?
That means we can't yet disclose a cause of death at this stage.
But you have determined the cause of death.
I didn't say that. We're not at a point where we can disclose or confirm a cause of death.
You got the shit beat, or whatever. I'm so glad old people are on Twitter. Yeah. Oh, dude, he did like this one thing about a vacuum. I think I made a video about it. He like put up this it was, I don't know if it was on Instagram or Twitter. He's got Instagrams too, you know, because he's got to post some thirst traps. But something about a vacuum, and like the Q people took it and like deciphered that it meant they were gonna clean up DC. You know what I mean? Like, it was some weird shit. Rap tells. Let's see what this one is.
And I understand from your testimony previously that you did not see Antifa or left-wing groups playing a significant role in the January 6th insurrection.
Certainly, while we're equal opportunity and looking for violent extremism of any ideology, we have not to date seen any evidence of anarchist violent extremists or people subscribing to Antifa in connection with the 6th. That doesn't mean we're not looking, and we'll continue to look. But at the moment, we have
Antifa plant. Nope. He's a liar. He's a liar. They were all Antifa,
not
bro.
seen that.
Check out this JPEG my cousin sent me, okay? Check out this JPEG, okay? It's all Antifa. Oh, and then I saw this earlier. This is what made me want to check it out. Sheldon Whitehouse kind of snaps here. Kind of interesting.
Do you know how many questions for the record the FBI failed to answer in the last 4 years?
I do not.
Well, I'll tell you. There were 9 hearings in this committee in which the FBI was a witness, and in 7 of them, the committee got exactly 0 questions for the record.
And this is the thing, I tweeted this out earlier, like the left gets like duped into this game with people on the right because we find ourselves defending like unsavory characters like Andrew Cuomo and like shitty people that like they just don't like because they're absolutely insane. Like people like Anthony Scaramucci, Mitt Romney, people that are pretty bad overall, but it's like they like go after them for these really stupid fucking reasons, and then we end up defending them. And I think it almost becomes kind of like a habit, like just when they have a criticism that we push back because we know it's, you know what I mean? And I think we kind of do that with Ray, but Whitehouse brings up a really good point here that like they have completely like just been not accountable on a lot of these hearings over the last couple years, really since Ray's been there.
7. 0 questions. Can you explain that?
I cannot. I will say...
Are you going to do any better with the questions that we're getting right now? You've been asked questions for the record. Are they going to go into the same, whatever it was, hole where questions for the record go to die at the FBI?
Well, Senator, first thing I would say about questions for the record is that, as you may know, there is an elaborate interagency process that requires that answers that we provide have to get
which is immensely convenient for the executive branch. But our questions don't direct that interagency process, do they? And that interagency process doesn't respond to us in Congress, does it?
We're required to comply with the interagency process to provide our responses to questions for the record.
By what?
Now, having said that,
By what are you required to comply with that interagency process?
I can't cite you the reg or the rule.
Because it seems to me that when the FBI wanted to get information to this committee, particularly when it wanted to get information to Republican members of this committee so they could investigate your investigation of the Trump-Russia connection, that information got right through to our Republican colleagues. It didn't seem to go through any interagency process. It wasn't delayed. What we seem to have is, for most of us, but this was bipartisan, by the way. When I say we got 0 questions for the record answered from those hearings, I mean 0 questions of any member of this committee, not 0 Democratic members answered, okay? So you've got this basic high.
So yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I was looking, sometimes the YouTube chat just sometimes deletes comments. I don't know why, like I noticed that a lot. They just delete the like, I don't know if like certain words trigger it or whatever. Like YouTube's a lot more sensitive now with what they allow in chats, especially live chats. So that might have been why your comment got deleted. It just does that sometimes. But I mean, that, again, like Christopher Wray he's not like, some based lefty. Like you can see right there, like Whitehouse brings up, he, when it came to the Russia, when they want to do the investigate the investigators bullshit, he's very forthcoming with the, the after the fact questions for the record. But on everything else, it always seems to get lost in translation, lost in in the whatever, the fucking fog of Washington somewhere. That's kind of...
Senator, I commit to working with you to try and see how we can improve our responsiveness and to getting you more of the information you need. The one thing I will say is that I can assure you that in terms of my responsiveness to this committee, to the members of this committee, or to Congress overall, it is absolutely not, speaking only for myself now, on a partisan basis.
Well, you run an organization that seems to have operated under very different rules, and it was you running that organization. So let's not make these distinctions right now.
Boom. Based White House? Oh, God. Killer Cruz. But yeah, no, I totally agree with that assessment. I mean, like, the FBI needs to, needs to come with it. And they have a lot of explaining to do for quite a few things, especially January 6th. Because, again, we should have seen this coming. Like, there's no reason. And I think there's been a lot of bending over backwards when it comes to Republicans. And, just because, again, Ray is a partisan guy. Like, he was put in by Trump. He was Christie's boy, who was, Trump's boy. Like, he's not, some, neutral figure by any means. The right only doesn't like him because he literally won't say, like, Antifa is responsible for everything. Like, just because he won't do that doesn't mean he's some, like, nonpartisan dude.
You had a conversation with Senator Grassley about the death of Officer Sicknick, and they're obviously...
Now, see that Cancun glow he's got? Look at that. Look at that Teen Wolf Cancun glow he's got going on here. You sumbitch with your Starbucks.
Is considerable interest and concern in the Senate and across the country as to the...
He's so performative, man. God, how can anybody like this guy? His, well, I gotta do my concerned, serious voice because I'm on TV and I want to run for president and I am gonna milk the shit out of this.
Circumstances of Officer Sicknick's death. There have been conflicting reports about the circumstances of his death. You told Senator Grassley the FBI at this point is not in a position to confirm a cause of death. Is there any information that the FBI can share with the American people about what we know of the circumstances surrounding his tragic death?
Although I certainly understand and appreciate the keen interest in it for all the reasons we've discussed, at the moment, other than to say the Capitol Police has, of course, categorized it, I think appropriately, as a line-of-duty death, there's nothing really that I can share right now. Certainly, I understand why it's very much top of mind for people, and I think it speaks well of the members of Congress that they're so interested in somebody who's lost his life protecting all of you. So,
yeah, except they're not interested in the reasons that they should be interested in it for.
As soon as we're in a position when the investigation has gotten to a stage where we can share information, we want to be able to do that.
And now we got a couple little more this is just funny. Like Tom fucking Cotton just,
Well, when it comes to MS-13, it won't surprise you to know that I support the lock 'em up policy, but I also support the deport 'em policy. Well, when it comes to MS-13, it won't surprise you to know that I support the lock 'em up policy, but I also support the deport 'em policy.
I'm a great guy because I support locking up criminals of a giant gang organization, and I also support deporting them. Please vote for me. Please buy my book, please. And Josh Hawley here. God, this guy just fucking screams smug fuck. Like whatever a smug fuck looks like, I'm assuming it's Josh Hawley.
What authorities do you have in mind? You said that you're using the relevant authorities. What authorities are they?
Well, we have various forms of legal process we can serve on companies that will allow us.
Right. Cruz should have remained in Mexico. Where's the remain in Mexico policy for Ted Cruz, huh? I mean, didn't you vote for that? I mean, well, that was an executive order. Never mind.
To get action.
And that's been done.
Well, we're using a lot of legal process in connection with the investigation, so yes.
But
this is Ted Hawley playing the role of a populist. Go.
Specifically serving process on companies invoking your various legal powers to get data from companies. That's been done in the case of gathering this data.
In gathering metadata, again, I don't know the specifics, but I feel confident that has happened because metadata is often something that we look at, and we have a variety of legal tools that allow us to do that under certain circumstances.
What about the cell tower data that was reportedly scooped up by the Bureau on the day during, in fact, while the riot was underway? What's happened?
Thanks
what's
for hanging
happened
out,
to that
Paul.
data?
Appreciate
Do
you.
you still have it? Has it been retained?
You're the man.
Do you have plans to retain it?
Again, whatever we're doing with cell phone data, I'm confident that we're doing it, in conjunction with our appropriate legal tools and working with
here's what I'm trying to get at, and I think it's what Senator Lee was trying to get at. How are we going to know what you are doing with it, and how are we going to evaluate the Bureau's conduct if we don't know what authorities you're invoking, what precisely you're doing, what you're retaining? I mean, this is, you said to him repeatedly you weren't familiar with the specifics. You've now said it to me. I don't know. I'm not sure how this committee is supposed to evaluate anything that the Bureau is doing. You're basically saying just trust us. I mean, how are we going to know? Do we have to wait till the end of your investigation to find out what you've done?
Well, certainly I have to be careful about discussing an ongoing investigation, which I'm sure you can appreciate.
Well, no. I mean, is he like concerned about using like the location data of the people they're looking for? Like, I don't think it's like some wide-ranging thing. Like, what I definitely don't support is any further intrusions into our privacy because of the January 6th thing. But now if you were there at it, you get whatever you get. Like, but it shouldn't be like some broad sweeping thing. But anybody who is known to be there, look into all the data you want, because fuck them. You know what I mean? So that was pretty much, I mean, I don't know. That was the highlights that I saw. Anyway, so, I mean, I feel like, honestly, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of this is just performative. And I think we're not gonna really find any like big revelations at this point. I think people need to be investigated. I think, and I think certain people need to be called up, but I don't know if they will be. And, people like Lauren Boebert and other people need to be investigated further. And I don't know. I just honestly, I feel like the only people that are gonna got out of this whole Capitol riot thing is the lowly idiots that stormed in there, but none of like the organizers, and even like the people in Congress that clearly like helped like the push to stop the steal or helped organize events. Like, nothing's gonna happen to them, and it's unfortunate. They're not even gonna lose their fucking, giant position of power. But okay, so before we get to the voter story, the voter suppression story, which is what we'll end with, we just gotta do this real quick little Marjorie Taylor Greene piece, who apparently doesn't know what the fuck voter suppression is.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to H.R. 1. While we're talking about voter suppression and long lines, I'd like to point out that there's real voter suppression that happens right here in
Oppressive. What do you got? God, my God, this lady is so cringe.
in Congress. Many members of Congress have to stand in long lines to enter the chamber, going through metal detectors, emptying our pockets, and being treated very disrespectfully. So that is real voter suppression.
What? There's real voter suppression going on in Congress, where we almost never hold votes and all of our jobs are basically performative at this point. I had to walk through a metal detector and empty my pockets. Oh, the humanity, I tell you. I am so oppressed. If this ain't the most basic ass fucking bitch, I swear to God.
and it's a shame that it happens right here on the House floor. Standing in line to vote is not voter suppression. It's just part of the voting process, just like people stand in line to buy groceries at the grocery store. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Wait, didn't you just bitch about standing in line? No, standing in line is not voter suppression. Systematically dismantling the entire voting system to make it where nobody besides people named Chad between the ages of 30 and 39 can vote, and doing everything in your power to make lines so long that you have to camp out for 2 days, that is voter suppression. But I guess, you know, but hey, keep wearing masks that say oppressive and talking and whining and crying that your vote is being suppressed because you had to, quote, empty your pockets and go through a metal detector and be disrespected. Oh, yes, that's so disrespectful to do what every person does like 9,000 times a day at the airport, I guess. I don't... Like, just the fucking balls to even say something like that. That's one of the things that just blows my mind with some of these people. Like, I would not ever think of coming close to having the balls to say some of the shit that they do. Like, it would come out of my mouth and I would just immediately keel over from death, from cringe overload. Like, how do you even say that? How do you even go outside wearing this fucking mask? Like, people are going to be the downfall of fucking humanity. They already are. They already are. The downfall of humanity. And, you know, whatever. I guess we're just here for the show. But, let's talk about some real voter suppression. I could go through the whole thing. There's a good Mother Jones article. I made a video about it earlier, but Philip DeFranco did a little segment about it, and he covers it pretty well. I'll skip to the end here.
So, 2 quick important updates at the top of today's show. For people from a certain party that are fighting the real fight, in that if too many people vote, we almost always lose. And that may be the reason that we're seeing Republicans in the Georgia House passing a sweeping bill yesterday that would massively roll back voting access in the state. The bill, which was proposed by Republicans who want to impose new restrictions after losing the election, was passed 97 to 72.
This is in Georgia. The first bill he's talking about is in Georgia, but there's several other states that are doing this shit too, and it is like I mean, not everything is like, you know, completely horrible, but it's a lot of bad shit.
Along party lines. And signed into law, among other things, the legislation would require a photo ID for absentee voting, cut the amount of time voters have to request an absentee ballot, restrict ballot drop box locations to inside early voting locations, shorten Georgia's runoff election period, impose more strict regulations on provisional ballots, prevent the governments from mailing out unsolicited absentee ballots.
You guys getting all this? But wait, there's more.
Ballot applications to registered voters, ban nonprofit organizations from helping fund elections, almost entirely cut early voting buses that are key to transporting people to the polls, prohibit food and drinks from being distributed to voters waiting in long lines, and finally limiting early voting hours on the weekends. And
shit.
People to the polls, prohibit food and drinks from being distributed to voters waiting in long lines, and
so this is what this bill, now it passed I think it passed the House and it's got to go to the Senate now. But this require a photo ID for voting absentee. Now, we could talk about voter ID laws and if they're good or bad and how they've been used to suppress people's vote. But they want people to photocopy their picture of their license and send it in with their absentee mail-in ballot. So yet another step. Let me just, a lot of people don't have a printer. Just because you don't have a printer, or, like if you forgot to vote and in last minute, you don't have time to go out. What if it's late in the, you know what I mean? There's a million things that could happen that you don't have a way to copy your license and attach it to your mail-in ballot. Like, it's just a dumb requirement for absentee voting. Cut time to request absentee ballots. So naturally, you know, we'll let you vote, but only between the hours of fucking 6 and 6:30 on Tuesdays, one day before the election, you know, the week before the election, you know what I mean? Like, why there's no other reason other than not wanting people to vote that you would put all these restrictive bullshit measures on the ballots. Restrict ballot drop box locations. Why? What's the good reason for that? Please explain why the fuck you would do that. Shorten election runoff time. That, you know, 9 weeks is kind of a long time. I think they want to shorten it to like 5 weeks. I can understand that. That's not crazy. Like that, you know, that's not shit compared to this other stuff. More strict regulations on provisional ballots because, you know, of course you would. Preventing mailing out unsolicited absentee ballot applications. Why? If they voted in the last election, why wouldn't you mail them out a ballot? You know what I mean? Like, why not? Like, somebody else is not going to vote from their address. Like, that's not a thing that happens. There's absolutely no evidence that that's a thing. Ban nonprofit organizations from helping fund elections. Okay, were you going to... Oh, what else? Can we get all the money out of politics then? But why are we just doing this? Almost entirely... Now, this is what I think this is the really dumb shit. Almost entirely cut early voting early vote, you know what I mean? Like, why? This is how, like, poor people get to the polls. Like, why would you be doing that? For what reason other than you just don't want people to vote would you be doing this? This is just really fucking dumb. Prohibit food and drink distribution and long voter lines. Let's starve them out. Let's literally starve the people out. Like, how can anybody be okay with this? Like, this is like passed like a week ago, and there's just not enough people talking about it. Like, more people need to be making a big deal out of this, because this is 9 kinds of fucked up. Limit early voting hours on the weekends, and that gets into another thing, which he's about to talk about here.
Finally, limiting early voting hours on the weekends. And actually, that last part is one of the most controversial provisions. And that is because the Get Out the Vote campaign, known as Souls to the Polls, is widely used by black churches. That initiative has been credited with mobilizing black voters all over the country since the Jim Crow era, but this proposed law would limit events to just one Sunday during the early voting period, which they would, of course, also cut short. Now, Republicans who have...
Now, Souls to the Polls was a huge thing in the black community to get people out to vote. You know, you would go with your congregation or whatever you call it in a congregation. I think that's what they call a group of church-going folk. Like, you know, the congregation would go, you know, and they had several opportunities to do this. And the number of votes, like on a normal day, the number of black votes in Georgia on early voting was 30%. On Sundays during the Souls to the Polls, you know, get out the vote drive, it went up to almost 40%. So it clearly had an impact in how many, you know, people of color, black people, voted on Sunday. Like, this is just clear, 100%. Just, we don't want black people to vote. Like, they're almost screaming it. There's no other reason to say, hey, you can't vote on Sundays.
Push for the bill, argue that it is necessary to restore public confidence in Georgia's elections and help prevent fraud. But to that, you have Democrats, voting rights organizations, and protesters who gathered out in front of the Capitol to demonstrate against this bill have pointed out that numerous top Republican officials, including Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, have...
Yeah, that's their rationale. They want to restore confidence in the election. It's like, bitch, you're the one that made them not confident in the election by pushing a bunch of bullshit conspiracies. And this is just what the right has turned into. This is why I don't understand anybody who thinks we can negotiate with these people. Like, they literally create narratives and then make laws to pass them. Hold on. Jesus. Like, they literally created a completely fake scenario, and now they're trying to pass ridiculous legislation to restore confidence in the thing that they completely corrupted the confidence in. Like, you're just a mad person if you think you can in any way negotiate with this people. You just have to beat them, and you have to be kind of dirty about it. Like, I don't want to hear, this is why I don't want to hear about, oh, procedurals in the Senate and the parliamentarian said that. It's like, no, fuck that. We need to beat these people, because guess what? They just create shit out of thin air and then pass horrible legislation to, you know, make it even worse, make the situation even worse and worse for you, better for them. But yeah, you want to negotiate on the Senate parliamentarian. Get the fuck out of here.
Said time and time again, there was no evidence of fraud in the 2020 elections. And if anything, it was Republicans that hurt public trust in the state's elections by repeating Donald Trump's false claims about election fraud. Even though, as the Atlanta Journal-Constitution notes, legislative Republicans who supported Trump's claims have not contested the results of their own General Assembly elections. And so in part, that's why you have people arguing this is just a very transparent attempt to drive down voter turnout and suppress voters, particularly black voters. Right? Without that exceptional turnout from black voters, Republicans would most likely still control the Senate. Now, as far as what happens next, the bill will be heading to the state Senate, which is also Republican controlled and already considering its own elections bill that would end no excuse absentee voting, among others.
Like, yeah, this is almost this is guaranteed to pass pretty much. Like, this will be Georgia's election laws. And, you know, unless there's like some giant, you know, outcry or, you know, uprising or something, you know, that's why, you know, normally I'm not like, hey, share this video, but the video I made about this earlier, I was like, dude, please share this. Unfortunately, it flopped, but, you know, whatever. Fucking TikTok, man. TikTok is so weird with the videos they, like, at this point, I'm convinced it's not like my content. It's not like this video is like 100,000 view worthy and this video is only 600. It's just like they just pick and choose who to show videos to at this point. But yeah, I mean, this is absurd. And then, you know, Brian Kemp is of course going to sign this bill because he don't give a fuck. And then, yeah, it's going to be almost impossible for Democrats to win. Oh, shit.
And then, of course, it goes to Brian Kemp, who we all know is very sympathetic to voter suppression. But really notably here, this is just one focal point on a much bigger issue. This isn't the only election bill that's being proposed in state capitals around the country. In fact, according to the Brennan Center for Justice, legislators in 43 states are considering more than
253 bills that would restrict voting access in 43 states. So this is a nationwide problem. And even though he won the Democrats won the presidency in 2020, a lot of state houses where voting laws are made are Republican. A lot of key battleground swing states are Republican. And make no mistake, they're going to be fucking one by one. Fucking, they're going to be knocking these fucking voting laws out. So this is what they've done. They've pretty much instilled in 80% of their base that the election was stolen, everything was rigged, and then you have idiots like Steven Crowder pushing completely bogus conspiracy theories about fucking fake addresses. So they have them fucking locked on this mindset that they have to completely restrict voting, and then they pass horseshit laws like this all over the country. Because, you know, they haven't had a good policy in 50 years, so they have to do this.
50 bills that would create impediments to voting. But ultimately, that is where we are with this story now, and we're gonna have to wait and see what comes of all of this. And that is where I'm going to end today's show. As always, thank you for being a part of my daily dives in the news.
But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as that. And then of course, you know, you have, and then right after I watched that, I saw the you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about how she was fucking voter suppressed. Like, I'm suppressed. It's like, your party is like fucking systematically destroying everything in our country. I don't want to hear about how you have to walk through a fucking metal detector. But yeah, that's some just, I don't know, it's just some crazy shit, man. And you know, they do whatever to win. That's what they do. And they're doing it right now. Like, they don't care. Like, Republicans do not care. They will do anything. And if we don't pass, and this is why, like, I'm so critical of the Biden administration, because if we don't pass major legislation with all these horseshit laws going into effect that suppress the vote, not only will they lose in 2022, but they'll lose in 2024, because you only have about another 12 months to really pass any legislation. Because after that, the midterms ramp up. It's harder to pass things because people are worried about getting reelected. So we have, I would say, a good 12 months maybe to pass real legislation. But no, we can't pass legislation that's 70% popular because of the Senate parliamentarian. It's just so frustrating. War is the only answer. I don't know about that, my guy. I mean, we can't go there yet. But I don't know, let's switch the view here. Bam. But yeah, I don't know how it's just, yeah, it's catastrophic shit. I don't know. I live deep in the Confederacy. I'll be a spy. All right, sounds good. We need some spy. We need something. Fuck, we need a leg up, man. We're getting killed out here. These people are fucking these people are talking about Mr. Potato Head and fucking the Muppets and Dr. Seuss, and somehow we can't win. I don't understand. How do they control all the legislatures talking about Dr. Seuss and shit? Well, that's a lot of Southern Trump supporters think they are already. They are insane. Yeah, true. I ain't going to, yeah, I don't want to go to war either, dude. I ain't got time for that shit. Fuck. I just want them to like stop talking for like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Or like just lose. Can you guys just lose? Can like the party break up already? I was really hoping Trump would start a third party. That way, you know, they would just implode. But, you know, unfortunately, he was smart enough to realize that was a shit idea. So, you know, what the fuck do we do? I live in a state where they're not afraid to don't you live in Texas, don't you, Shannon? They're pretty bad about fucking voter suppression. Overt, yeah. That's what I thought you meant. I wasn't sure what I wasn't sure if you meant cover or overt. I knew it was one of those words. But yeah, I mean, they're the ones that tried to discount, what was it, like 600,000 votes because they went to like the drive-through ballot drop-off boxes or something. They just tried to discount 600,000 people's votes because, you know, of a thing they passed, but then they're like, oh, we don't actually really like this. It's like, dude, like they have no shame in their, you know what I mean? Like I heard somebody say, like, when are Democrats gonna learn? It's like they're in an abusive relationship, and when are they gonna learn that the abuse isn't gonna stop just because they cook a better meal? You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, I swear, like the Republicans will change this time. It's like, dude, no. They're only going to get actively worse. He's going to keep drinking. He's going to keep hitting you. Doesn't matter how well you do your makeup or what, if you make him lasagna or make him a steak, he's still an asshole. And that's what these people are. They are assholes. They are abusive, idiotic, belligerent morons, and they have to be defeated in politics. And you can't do that unless you pass good legislation. So please quit fucking nickel and diming us. And let's get some shit done. Let's make this country better and defeat Republicans at the same time, which is a win-win. Yeah, you know, I think you could make a case that Texas would already be blue if it wasn't for all the voter suppression. I mean, shit, it's close anyway. And yeah, the current Dem establishment will never learn. We just have to. The Nancy Pelosi's, even Joe Biden, you know, like Joe Biden, I think it's like he was in the Senate so long. Like Joe Biden is like he's just like, he like romanticizes like Senate procedure. You know what I mean? I think because he was a senator for whatever, 40 years. So he like romanticizes that shit. So that's why he's like, oh, the parliamentarian, we can't cross them. It's like, dude, like nobody cares about your feels, bro. Like, tell that to Glenn in Montana or whatever, somewhere. Glenn's probably a Republican, but, you know, tell it to, you know, somebody. We will all pay for the poor choices of the do-nothing Dems. Yeah. Unfortunately. But, yeah. All right, I think I'm gonna hop off here, y'all. But it was fun, entertaining, I guess. I know Crowder made like another video, and it was really dumb. I only got to watch like half of it because I was really busy. But I'm gonna try and check it out later and do a little research in some of the shit he said. Maybe we'll go over that tomorrow or something. Maybe the next day. I'm not sure. See what my schedule's like. But if I don't stream tomorrow, definitely the day after. But yeah, again, make sure you follow me on Twitch and join the Discord because the Discord's awesome, and we're starting to get more people in there. You know, you can share your QAnon story if you got some QAnon family members. I got like a room you can share your Q story, or I got like sources on Q, how to pull people out of cults. I share like news of the day type shit, and then, you know, just like a general. It's just, you know, general good vibes. Thanks for the update, but now I'm depressed. Yeah. Oh, yes, please shit on Crowder. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. Shitting on Crowder is awesome. Also, Tim Pool said some dumb shit yesterday, but again, like, I just didn't have much time to, Oh, yeah, it's almost March 4th. That's right, yeah, 2 more days. Definitely streaming on March 4th, just so we can check out the cringe, the cringe MAGA takes. So, yeah. But, I just realized I was behind in the stream. Oh, well, it happens. Sometimes there's a little lag in there. But, yeah. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, y'all. Make sure you follow me on every single fucking social media thing, because that would be cool. And, yeah, I'll see you guys, tomorrow or the next day, sometime. Peace out.